Welcome back to the Student Hub Live Refreshers Orientation event. Well, we've had a fantastic day so far. There's plenty of sharing going on, and I hope you've had some lunch to eat during our little break. We're now going to have a really exciting programme up till the middle of the afternoon with the quiz, which I'm really looking forward to at 2 o'clock. Our OU Wheel of Ologies quiz is a great opportunity for staff and students to pitch their knowledge ultimately against Team Home, everybody at home, who will be playing our fun, interactive, general knowledge, I guess, type quiz thing. But it's heaps and heaps of fun and a great way to socialise and meet other people. All Freshers Weeks needs a quiz, and this is our online version of that. So I hope you stay tuned until 2 o'clock when we're going to kick off with Dave Rothery, our quizmaster with the mostest from Planetary Sciences. But right now we're going to talk about getting buy-in from your friends and family. And already today we've heard so much about worries about commitments and juggling and fitting it all in, and also how important it is to make sure that other people are aware of your commitment to your studies and that you can ensure that you get the space and support from people around you. So to talk about this really important subject, I'm joined by Michelle Pride from the Open University and Patrice Belton, who is a student. Welcome, Patrice. Now, Michelle, you work within the Faculty of Business and Law, but you're also a student.
I am,
so I want that hat on today to sort of talk about how we can really focus on buy-in. Now, Patrice, I'm going to leave you to tell everyone what you're up to, but you have the most busy life. And also, you know, you've got a lot going on with your cultural background and stuff. So how do you fit everything in?
Very difficultly.
How did you end up being here and studying at the OU?
So basically, I come from a large Caribbean family. So when I say large, I've got like 23 nieces and nephews, 9 brothers and sisters. It literally just keeps going. And
you must get loads of birthday
presents. I tried buying Christmas presents one year and it just went a little bit ridiculous. Yes, I totally understand. But with that, I also I work part-time. My husband, he also studies with the OU and he works full-time. And then I also do little projects like these with the OU as well. So it's been quite full on, you know, but at the same time, it's quite an amazing experience for me. For being a student, I thought I would not have the time to be able to have, you know, any type of time for my family, any type of time for socializing or anything. But what I find I went to mainstream university, by the way, and coming from mainstream university where everything's very rigid and everything's very structured and you have very limited time, 9 to 5, the OU gives you a flexibility that you can now put, you know, schedules in place where you can actually talk to your family, you can actually go out and have meetings in between study, in between work, and that's something I really appreciate.
But if your husband's studying with the OU, it must be simple. He must surely understand. Hang on.
No, it really, actually, it's been quite challenging. I hope so. Support and all, no, but it's been quite a challenge. And we had to find, because we live in a one-room flat, and we had to find ways to study and both, you know, integrate, but at the same time not get in each other's way. So I chose the desk in the kitchen. Well, it's not the kitchen, it's the table, but it's my desk now. And he's got a proper desk in the bedroom, and literally to avoid each other, that's what we do. And that way it gives me permission to do the cooking and all the stuff I want to do, creative things, greet people if they come in, and he can just focus.
Brilliant.
So that's really helpful.
So how did you then start having that conversation about who was claiming which piece of desk?
It's because he started studying first, you see. So he started a year prior to me. So because he started a year prior to me, he automatically got reign on the desk, and I had to kind of find somewhere else after.
Brilliant. So we've asked people at home whether they've talked to their family about some of the support that they might need. 61 say yes a little bit, 28 say yes in detail. No one said no yet, which is good.
Oh, wow.
So some conversations going on. But how did that go, and how much detail do you really need? Especially some of our students are brand new. They don't even know what they don't know yet, and they don't know what they might need yet. You know, we've had some pretty good ideas, but how did you go about starting the conversation?
Well, for me, it was very difficult because, like I said, I was in mainstream university. I was studying to be a teacher then, but in early years. And then I was transitioning. I was really unfulfilled at my job, and I was transitioning in careers. So I said, I don't want to be doing that type of administrative work anymore. I'm going to go to uni again just to try to do something that I might like. But being a teacher and being around a lot of children and then having to go home to a massive family was a bit overwhelming. So I thought I need to find a different structure. My mental health was also going down or being challenged by the uni atmosphere, and also because of my family size and all of the different constraints that we have. So because of that, I thought I need something different. So I came all the way out of uni, had a gap year, and just refocused what I might want to do and what might be serving for me. So what I did was I looked at channels online and I found the Open University. And after that, I just never looked back. And it was really helpful because it really gave me time to really focus on my mental health, focus on myself, you know, alongside studying and doing something that really makes me feel encouraged. So there you go. I hope that's helpful.
Brilliant. Now, we've got some widgets we'd like you to fill in, which we're going to talk about at various points in the session. I've already spilled the beans on some, but things have been changing a bit more when you asked about, have you talked to your friends and family about the support you'll need? A bit later in the session, we're going to talk about how much time and energy can be taken about others around you. That's a scale, so just see where you're at in terms of those lines. And the last one is the Wordle. So 3 things. If you can only think of 1 or 2, just put 1 or 2 things in. 3 ways to describe how I feel about fitting study into my life. OK, so we'll come back to those in a little while. But Michelle, tell us about when your husband decided that he wanted to start studying. Were you really super supportive then?
Well, my husband left school at 15 with 1 O-level then, and so he hadn't studied in many years, 20 plus years, and he was very anxious for himself. He was really worried about it, so he was scared to approach the conversation with me. And I think he'd done a lot of research, and he was sitting on the sofa one night and he said, "What do you think if I start studying?" So that was his anxiety, like, could I even, all of those kinds of things. And right away I said, yes, absolutely, this is brilliant. So he, in that sense, he was a bit anxious about what my reaction would be, but my reaction was supportive. And I know not everybody's reaction is supportive. And I think for me, it's to think about why you want to study, and maybe that will help when you're having the conversation. So, for example, if you're the first reaction, like his mother's first reaction when he said he was going to study, she said, "Well, how are you going to pass that?" That was the first thing that she said to him.
One of the things we asked earlier about, which students were saying, which I didn't show, was what are you most worried about? And someone said disappointing my mum.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a real worry that people have. So I think it's really important to understand what the motivation for study is, why are you studying, and then share that with your friends and family. Maybe start the conversation along those lines. You know, I've been thinking for a long time that I'd like to walk across that stage at graduation. I've been thinking for a long time that I'd like to change my career, or I'd like to do something different, as you were saying. And explain your motivation. That's a really nice opener for the conversation. And I think be prepared to mitigate challenges. So if someone says to you, how are you going to pass that with your maths? Or if someone says to you, I think that's a really daft idea. Or so just think, okay, I might get those, but actually, no, this is about me. This is about me taking responsibility for myself. And this is my opportunity now to actually do this. And as Patrice said, the OU is really flexible. It gives you a lifeline in so many different ways. You can make it work. You know, I get people saying to me, I'm worried that my kids will think I'm not a good mum if I'm studying. So it's not just the parents, letting your parents down, but it's letting your kids down as well. We'll study alongside your kids. And I think it's always looking for a way to work collaboratively to maybe address some of those worries or concerns. But start the conversation. That's the most important thing.
Brilliant. We've got a video about that next as well. So, Patrice, how did you help your family understand how demanding study was going to be for you then?
I just gave them my books, basically. I literally just brought the whole multitude of books that I have to go from. Because they thought, okay, well, it's not going to be like mainstream uni where you really have to get involved, you know. It's just going to be quick things online and that's it. But no, I brought them proper, you know, materials, and I showed them the works of what I've got to read, all the things I've got to engage with. I also showed them online platforms, and then I explained to them a little bit of what I was going to do. That did the trick.
Yes. Just add, Karen, some students won't know yet, but when you get into your student homepage and you get into your module, there's a planner. Yeah. And so I think print that out, print the planner out for your friends and your family, and just say to them, okay, these 2 weeks before my assignment is due, or these 3 weeks before my assignment is due, don't expect to see me. I'm going to be working really hard then, but let's celebrate afterwards. Can we put a date in the diary now? My submission is due on the 4th of December. Can we have a celebration on the 5th of December? And it can be a very little celebration, or it can be something bigger as you go on. But really, it's give and take. I need this time. I need to be alone. We talked about space. Space is really important. There's the emotional support, there's the intellectual support, but there's also having a space to study. And just explaining to your family, when I am here at this desk, when I've got these big headphones on, it's me studying, and I don't want you near me. I can't have you near me. You might like to get a little tea bell.
Ah, yeah.
So you've got your big headphones on, you're at your desk, but now you need something. And hopefully someone will come and say, would you like a cup of tea, love?
Always works, does it?
It does.
Wow.
But absolutely, you want to set aside a very clear, this is my studying time, this is the do not bother me time, or this is, I'm doing some light studying now, a bit of light revision. Would you like a cup of tea?
I would love a cup of tea, please.
And cake.
Okay, forget the tea, just cake, thank you. See, it does work.
Imagine. I'll have that.
But it's just figuring out different techniques that work for you, but knowing that there's a time when you need to be totally focused and you might need a long chunk. There are other times when you need little chunks. You're like, I want to revise little and I want to revise often. So I'm going to do 15 minutes before work, 15 minutes at lunch, 15 minutes at the end of the day. But your family needs to know that. Yeah. If you don't communicate that, they'll be thinking, why is Patrice not talking to me? Or why is Patrice not at this party? Or why is Patrice not here? You will have to sacrifice, but then make sure you give back to your family.
Yeah. What about some of the stuff though when it's not in those books, when it's like a video, for example? Because some of the really like challenging learning content is in a video, but that doesn't always look hard to people. Yes, you're not really studying if you're watching a video type thing. Have you had that?
Not quite, actually, but because I guess a lot of my studying I do in my little private space, and my family aren't necessarily physically living in my home, so they don't get to experience that physical side of it when it comes, other than my books and me explaining to them. But I can imagine that would be quite difficult to try to show them the importance of it.
So what I do is I say to my daughter, come along and watch it with me, and then pretty soon she's out doing something all on her own.
Oh, wow. I know someone who did a dissertation on The Simpsons. Now, there you are, sitting watching The Simpsons. I explained that one. Really, fun. It is work. Really, I am studying.
So let's see. We asked people about whether or not they've talked to their friends and family, and the dust has settled on that a bit, and some people haven't. Let's see what you had to say about that question. So 53% have said yes, but now 25% have said they haven't been talking to their friends and family about the support they might need, and 22% have done it in quite a lot of detail. It is very early days. I mean, the modules haven't started, and certainly you don't need to be up and running on day one on Saturday. But what would you recommend students do now then?
Absolutely, it comes back to the planner. So if you can go onto the site, pull down the planner, and then your key dates. Yeah. So start that conversation, as we were saying, open it up for discussion, and find out what their concerns and anxieties are as well, and collectively find solutions.
Make them do a word cloud like we all have to do,
You joke about that, but why not? Let's everybody just, if your family's not particularly good at verbal communication, let everybody write down 3 words. We don't have to know whose they are. Yeah. Put them in, use Post-it notes. Okay, let's have a look at these and talk about them. But it might be intimidating to talk about it. There are other ways of communicating.
Because even though you have to do the work, there are commitments for everyone, but there are also lots of rewards. In particular, I mean, so many people have said, even people filling in those wordles, because I want my children to see I'm succeeding, because I want people to be proud of me, and that's a massive thing as well. I mean, Patrice, you probably had a lot of ideas about the support you might need before you started studying. But when you thought about what you thought you might need and then what you actually needed, were there any differences?
Again, back to, I have to differentiate so people understand it. But but between
I'll just take that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. But between mainstream university, I needed logistical and financial help that my loans didn't really cover, and I needed some extra support from family, even if it's tiny little things. You needed help with buying, but it was very difficult to kind of change and transition into the OU, where you don't necessarily need all those little, like I was telling someone outside, folders, you thought you would need all those things. You don't need them anymore. You need a different type of support when you come to the OU. You need a lot more emotional and a lot more domestical support. So it's a lot of things like cooking, cleaning. My husband, he's studying, God bless him, as well, or he was studying as well. But for me, when I really have a TMA and stuff with anxiety, I get really overwhelmed and flustered. So he would come in and do the cooking when he sees that I'm having a really difficult time, or we would organize things ahead of time. I brought something in with me. I know we didn't necessarily discuss, that, but this is something for me and my husband. I don't know if you guys can see it. It's called Date Night, and it's a game I created. It's got little dice on the bottom, and it's got like little lollipop sticks. I couldn't remember that name. Lollipop sticks in there. And what it is, we basically roll the dice. So whoever it is, roll the dice, and you just take a lollipop stick out, and it will have like a planned event at home. And we could do something like watch a movie, or Christmas at mom's or dad's, or whatever. Little things like that. And we will just use that as something to help us organize ourselves as a couple inside of the house. So that could be something unique you could use as well.
That's a great idea.
Thank you.
I don't know what I'd put on all those. I bet you guys do at home. If you've got advice and things on what you'd put inside a date night jar, keep it clean, please, though.
It's got a little bit of everything in there.
You spoke about cooking, and that's the other thing too, is you could prepare, for example, on Sunday,
could meal
3
plan,
or 4 or
yes.
5 meals, put them in the freezer. There are lots of ways
That
you
is
can...
definitely helpful.
Absolutely. Or you might say to someone, look, I've got my assignment this week. Mum, can you please do some extra meals for us? Or get someone else to help you out. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And no matter how silly it seems, definitely ask. But I think the meal planning is a really important one, and that
Absolutely
make a big
agree,
difference. Is otherwise,
Because aside from anything else, when you eat well, you can study better.
Yeah, definitely.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah.
Any other advice or suggestions, Michelle, for students about what they might need to ask, friends and family about, or how they might articulate some of these conversations, people who haven't already?
Yeah, I think if you haven't already, I can only encourage students, hello, I can only encourage people to do so, even though it seems big and scary. Just to have that conversation, because a little bit of support can go a long way, and then you can kind of get into a rhythm. And don't forget that you've got your tutors that you can ask for support as well. The tutors really are so helpful and so kind, and some people will be getting calls from their tutors now over the next couple of weeks, getting to know a little bit, and the tutors will give you advice. So if you have a question, ask your tutor specifically, I need help with talking to my mum about this, or my daughter about this, or whatever it might be. Also, we've got a student support team. The student support team are fantastic. I mean, you know that, and don't be shy to pick up the phone to the student support team or drop it on email. It's on the student homepage. Connect to student support. You can ask them. We have mental health support as well, so we have something called the Big White Wall that students can sign up for that gives a lot of help. I mean, we have many students with anxiety, and Patrice, I don't think you'd mind me saying.
I've used it before. No, I'm absolutely open with it, because I think people need to know, so definitely.
Yeah, so there are, but just asking for help is really important. Don't be embarrassed, don't be shy. We all struggle. We all have our down days. As you said, I'm a student as well, and there are times I'm looking at these questions and I'm going, I can't answer this question. Like, I just can't answer it. And then, so there are the times you say, okay, let's take a break, or can hubby help me, or do something nice, or ring student support, bring your tutor first and foremost. Tutor's always the first point of contact, and then the student support team. But there's lots of help.
Definitely. Can I add a little bit to this?
Yeah, you can.
There's also forums, which we need to make sure we interact with those, because they're so helpful. Go to every tutorial if you can as well, whenever you get an opportunity. Even if you've gone to ones where it's speaking of the same content, is very, very good to just have different types of students and different types of tutors speaking to you, because it just opens up your understanding a little bit more. On top of that, we also have Facebook channels and other social media channels that you can go through and connect with OU teams and OU groups. So that would be really, really helpful as well.
Yeah, and I think you might be surprised where you get that support from. So if you're not getting it from your family, because that does happen, then find someone else who can give you the support. There'll be other students who can give you support, other friends who can give you support, but make sure there's someone who can give you the support. And I recently went to graduation, and it was really, really exciting. And one of the reasons I went is we had this student who won an award. Now at 50, she went back to university because someone had said to her, well, she's heard all of her life, you're stupid, but someone had been repeatedly saying, you're really thick, you're quite dim. So she thought, I'm going to show them. And just what you said, she went to every single tutorial. She went to them, even if there were 2 or 3 in the same region for the same topic, she went to them. She completed in 3 years. Now she's a superstar, but and I appreciate no one's like this, but she had high marks throughout. She was the highest scoring student, completed in 3 years. At 53, there she is with a degree. And she's so proud. And that was with some support from family, and then some family members who weren't so supportive. So you can do it. Anyone can do it.
Oh, brilliant. Well, Tanya's eating carrots and hummus and has booked all her tutorials,
Well done.
thereby proving, I think, the relationship between good food and good organisation. Mind you, Wanda is eating leftover Sunday lunch as well. So that's good.
nothing wrong
Waste
with
not,
that.
want not. Absolutely. And I bet it's
Better
delicious.
the next day, doesn't
Oh,
it?
yeah. Very
As
nice.
we said, make a meal last 2 days so you don't have to cook half the time.
Clever.
Yeah.
So there are a couple of other things I want to talk about before we show the next Wordle as well. Michelle, you've brought your furry monster along, but I don't see him here.
Well, he's a little bit anxious. He's the
Right.
worry monster. So instead of the worry monster, I brought a picture of the worry monster.
Well, where is the real worry monster?
The real worry monster is hiding, but hopefully he's a little bit anxious. But hopefully tomorrow the worry monster will come out to play. So this
You
is,
forgot it.
Yeah. Yes, I
Don't
forgot
worry,
the
you
worry
can have some
monster.
cake.
So we all forget things. They just go straight. So the worry monster is great, and look online. You can get them locally as well. The worry monster has a zip in its mouth, and what you can do is you can stick your worries in there. It's for kids, so they stick their worries in there, and then the parent takes it out in the night. In the morning, the kid wakes up and the worries are gone. So it's lovely. But we ask students to put worries in here, and so we get quite a few worries. So we've had the worries, like I mentioned earlier. I worry that my kids won't think I'm a good mum if I'm studying too much, and so I think it's really important that that's another part of the conversation. What are your worries? What are your concerns? Talk to your family members about your worries. Am I going to upset people by studying? Well, ask them. Say, Mum, is this going to bother you? Is this going to upset you? And then work together to find a solution. But the worry monster is absolutely brilliant, lovely and fluffy. And I would say get one. All adults need a worry monster. Stick your worries in, because just by articulating them, you feel better. Yeah. And also know that if you've had the worry, someone else has had it, if not 10 or 100 other people. And talk to your friends and other students. Use the forums, but get a worry monster.
Okay, good. So tomorrow we've got a whole packed programme, and Michelle will be back for our Faculty of Business and Law event in the evening. Anyone can come along. We've got plenty of very useful sessions. We've got one for Access in the morning, STEM in the afternoon, and last week we had others as well that you can watch on Catch Up very, very soon. So being worried about stuff is really, really sensible when it's in your control, but sometimes things are out of our control. And our other widget was how much time and energy can be taken by others around you, from very little to a lot. So let's see what everyone had to say at home about that. So mainly a lot of people are worried about a lot of time and energy being taken up by others around you. I guess with a big family, that must have been a concern for you.
Yeah, I had to, I told them that I just can't do it. I tried very hard to juggle everything, and then it just became overwhelming. So I just basically had to be as open and honest as possible from the get-go. And then after doing that, I made schedules basically. So I write everything down, and I'm giving out appointments to it's a family member, but it's appointments, okay? They need to hear that as well. And I give appointments out from as early as possible. So I learn everything, get myself up to date. So that way they're
you could even make an appointment jar and
you
give
know what?
people
That's
10
a really
minutes
good
of time.
Exactly. There you go. Come and pick one up, and there you go. Off you go. That's your slot next week. But yeah, definitely, that's exactly what I did in order to keep everybody in the loop. And those who cannot be in the loop, they understand, because like I said, I'm explaining to them. They understand that I've got such a big schedule that I just cannot commit to these events with them. And it's hard because you feel like you're disappointing people. But at times I'm like, it's either I be constructively selfish and do something that in the end they're going to be proud of me for, or I don't do it and I drain myself, and then I'll be down on myself because I didn't achieve what I wanted to. And, they will be disappointed as well, because they'll be like, oh, look, we caused you to not achieve as well. So in that sense, it's a buy-in, as you call it. It's a win-win situation if you do it in the right way. That's the best way I can say it.
And I think the setting of the expectations, because I know that people just think, oh, well, you're at home studying, I'll just pop in for a cup of tea. That's actually not okay, and it's not helpful. So it's saying up front that, please, this is my study time, and don't just pop in. It's just like I have a real job. You wouldn't pop into the office to see me. This being a student is a job.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Okay, we need to come to the end of our session now, unfortunately, but I'm glad you're going to be back for the hot desk as well in a bit, and you'll be back as well, Patrice, later. 3 ways to describe how I feel about fitting study into my life, and we'll end with this and then share some tips each about that. So what did you at home have to say about 3 ways to describe how I feel about fitting study into my life? Worried is the main thing here. Anxious. Easy, good. So some people are very good. Uncertain, OU Anywhere, that's a great app. Prioritising, not confident, it will be my life. Slightly overwhelmed, jigsaw, pressure, nervous, stressed, apprehensive. Probably I would say quite a lot of negative words, but some people are very positive. We've got things like excited and busy, and it's a challenge, and they're up for the challenge. Organised, fun, prepared, planned, ready. So there are quite a lot of positive words. Plan, plate spinning, very important word as well. So what are your final tips then for students? And this is an ongoing conversation that we'll talk about most of the day, in fact.
I think one theme you're going to hear wherever you go in the OU is plan ahead. Start as early as possible. I mean early. So even before anything starts happening, before the tutorials start, not necessarily, if you're not ready to start your TMAs because you're a bit nervous, okay, don't push yourself to that limit, but start looking around the website. Get yourself as familiar as possible with everything, so that way you don't feel overwhelmed when it really does begin. that's one good tip there.
And I think you point out there's a lot of negative words, so reframe it or flip it.
Yeah.
Try and be positive. Someone said determined, I like that. Someone said juggling, I like that. And actually try and remove some of those negative influences. If someone's always a downer, say, oh, actually, I might need to cut the ties for a bit here because I don't have the emotional space with all of my studies. I need positive people around me. And so as hard as that sounds, try and flip things when you can to the positive. Frustration brings you nothing. It
Positive
absolutely
self-talk,
brings you nothing, but flip it and the positive self-talk goes a long way.
No, absolutely. Well, we've heard a lot about planning today and the importance of all of that. And also, I think the thing that I find so reassuring is that everyone seems to be in the same boat with just slightly different challenges. And, you know, it's hard fitting that time in. But equally, the planning is so important. And just from my own experience, it's really good to have detailed plans because sometimes things like write assignment is not a good plan. And so I find it quite helpful to break it down and figure out the various parts of that. And so for me, that planning can then, you know, be in 5 or 10 minute chunks, and then I can pick up where I can do those, what I can do on the move, what I need to sit down for. But that planning and that agility is something I think that grows with you. You don't get it from the start and be like, perfect. You learn different ways.
Perfect, I'm sorry.
And as your life changes as well, there's certain things that happen that mean that you have to shift, and being dynamic and flexible is a key thing, isn't it?
And just imagine yourself crossing that stage.
Yeah.
You just keep remembering why you're doing it. That moment when you walk across the stage is such a proud moment. So, yeah.
And can we put your wonderful idea on our tree, your date night, on our hierarchy of needs tree, which is looking a bit bare at the moment, but we've had a lot to talk about. So yeah,
Put that in there.
thank you. Yeah.
There's a good spot.
Oh,
That's
perfect. Excellent. Thank you very much. Well, Patrice and Michelle, thank you. That's been fab. And we're going to now show you a video about a child's perspective on studying. And then we're going to be back with the OU Library. If you haven't met the team from the OU Library, they're just fab. Everyone loves them, particularly because they do these great referencing online workshops and loads of other things that are really, really useful. And they're really friendly and they're open 24 hours a day. So we're going to find out about how the OU Library can support you in your studies after this short break.